How can we make sure that we keep the human element central to all of our business decisions? Well, Tami Bonnell, co-chair of Exit Realty, joins us today to share her thoughts and perspectives on how to do just that.
You keep people because you treat them like human beings. In order to be up close and personal, you have to genuinely care. Every one of us is a work in progress, and if you can build people, you'll build the business. It's all about showing them who they can become.
I'm Buffini, and this is The Curious CEO. Welcome to The Curious CEO. Today, we're going to talk to a fantastic leader who will share with us on how we can be resilient as leaders through the tough times. Tami Bonnell is the co-chair of Exit Realty and leads 23,000 agents across 650 offices in the US and Canada. She is consistently recognized as one of the most influential people in real estate and has over 30 years of experience. Beyond the boardroom, she's a third-degree black belt in Taekwondo and is a lifelong learner who consumes over 300 books a year. So, Tami, welcome to the show. We're delighted to have you on.
Well, thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, Tami, we've gotten to know each other over the years, and what I love about you is you're the real deal. You're a person who leads by example. I know you just didn't start as the co-chair of Exit Realty. You've had a great career. I know you come from a hard-working family. Mom and dad were in the construction business. I think even your grandparents were in the construction business. So you've been around the self-employed world. I know as a little entrepreneur, I think you had a little cleaning business at the age of 11. And I think you might have actually sold a house when you're 13. And I don't even know if that's legal, but I think that's right.
It is right.
Well, and I know you've had this great career, building multiple brands, and you've always kind of like leveled up to the next level, but you're a real person who's learned a lot along the way. I'd love to dig into kind of a little bit of what your leadership philosophy is and kind of where's that come from? How has it evolved?
Well, I think that probably my biggest philosophy is up close and personal, really focused on the human being, building people. And I think in order to be up close and personal, you have to genuinely care. I think that every one of us is a work in progress. And if you can build people, you'll build the business. It's all about showing them who they can become. And that doesn't mean that it's all, pure joy and happiness. There's times when you have to have a little bit of tough love too. In fact, my kids would probably tell you my famous last words to them are, "I love you, suck it up." And, sometimes you have to realize where, how do you find out what you're good at if you don't find out some things that you're not that good at?
Yeah. So where would you say, I know your dad really built into you as a young woman. What were some of the things that he kind of encouraged you to do, and how did he shape you?
Well, I think probably starting at 8, I started to beg to go to planning board meetings. And the most wonderful thing of just watching how he performed with people, he really put people first and he made it very personal. He remembered what was going on in their world and in their lives so that he was incredibly relatable to them. And he knew what was important to them so that whenever he was making a presentation, it was much more geared to those human beings than it was anybody else. And I think I learned that really early on. But he was also really good at making sure that he remembered all that stuff. I'd ride with him on Saturday morning and go collect rents. And, if somebody was struggling, he would be really patient with them and understand what was going on, unless it was something that had been carrying on for way too long. And he'd always connect with them on all the things that were important to them. So when they did have money, he was the one that they came to first. And I realized that just really being a good human made a difference. But it was also the magic of riding in the car, which I think is one of the biggest things I picked up on, that windshield time when you're leading other people to be able to, for me with him, it was, hey kid, this is worth money and this isn't, and this is why. But, driving by properties and all that kind of thing. But for me, I get to ask effective questions of the people I'm with, and you have that uninterrupted time. And I think people grow in an environment that they feel safe. So it gives them an opportunity to connect. So anytime to either do windshield time or walk and talk, those kind of things to really make it personal. And then when you do have to have a serious conversation, if you can really sit there and say, I care enough about you to have this conversation, right? And so that they're willing to sit back. I've let people go that still write me thank you notes around Thanksgiving. I don't think anybody wrote me one that day, but it's helping them to become who they were supposed to be. Not everybody's cut out for things that they try. I tried a ton of things that I'm absolutely no good at.
Hmm.
No one's going to ever ask me to sing happy birthday, and they're never going to ask me to fix a computer.
Well, let me ask you, when is it time for the love and when is it time for the suck it up conversations? When is it,
Well, I think
what's
the
your kind
love
of
is,
like your milestones or what's
well,
the,
I think the love is in public, right? As many
mm,
times as you can possibly share the love in public and really catch them doing something good and keep notes so that you're following up with that. And obviously, we've all learned only in private have those serious conversations. But if you whispered in their ear a couple of times and pointed them in the right direction and they're not grasping it, it's time to sit down and have that one-on-one conversation. And then it might even be time to sit down and put it in writing. But by then, I think most people realize what they're doing and not doing.
mm-hmm,
I don't think anybody wants to be in a job that they're not good at. I don't think anybody wants to be, they want to be part of the team. And as long as you can show them a way they can be, maybe even in a different position. We have a lot of retention in our company. The average executive's been with our organization for close to 20 years, and our staff has been there for, on average, over 15 years. And that's for a 25-year-old company, right?
mm-hmm,
So you keep people because you treat them like human beings and you treat them respectfully. But there are times when you have to put them in a different position because their personality or their skill set doesn't match that. It doesn't mean
mm-hmm.
you can't let them take risks, but only for so long, because you can't risk the company either.
Yeah, for sure. And so what do you look for in people? Like when you're recruiting, when you're interviewing, when you're, you're growing as a business, and a lot of folks on here, they're growing their businesses. They're looking for people. And I'm sure some folks here are like, oh my gosh, I've some people, and there's other people. I'm like, I'm not sure if I should have ever let them in the doors. What do you look for in people?
Well, I want to see that they've done a little bit of homework before they get there.
Mm,
And so that they are really engaged and paying attention. I want to see them passionate about something. I really want to know what their dreams are and that they have dreams.
mm,
I don't want somebody that's just
mm,
going to come in and fill a void. It really needs to be somebody that's going to be part of the team. And so you get a feeling, it with your organization, you get a feeling for those people that really fit, that they feel like they're part of your tribe. And if they genuinely want to see other people succeed, if they genuinely care about their community, if they are really passionate about what they're doing, they'll get caught up in the passion project. They
mm-hmm,
love being
mm,
on a mission. But for the people that are just going to phone it in, they'll work their way out of a job. They will absolutely work their way out of it because it just doesn't fit.
mm-hmm. Right. Well, I think what you're describing there is a culture.
Right.
So if you were going to describe your culture and the type of culture you try to create, what would that be, and what are the components that you would share?
Well, a group of professionals dedicated to providing a quality of life for the agents and the communities they serve, right? We want to make sure that it's an environment that, and I'll give you the best example I can that probably
Mm,
explains our culture better than anything else. During the worst recession since the Depression, the only people that took a hit in pay were the people in leadership.
mm,
We didn't ask any of our staff to take a hit in pay, and we didn't lay one single person off.
mm-hmm,
We lived our mission statement, which is that we're a company built on human potential.
mm,
And the magic of that is that it built this trust that everyone felt safe in that environment. So when the pandemic hit, instead of just us reaching out, and we did it the same way, that we're the only ones that are going to take a hit and pay until we see where things are going to go. If we're
mm-hmm,
responsible when things are going good, we're responsible when times aren't that good either.
mm-hmm,
But what happened is they all felt safe because of having gone through the recession. They felt safe. So everybody raised their hand and said, how can we be part of the solution? How can we help? And so we actually launched a stimulus package worth in excess of $50 million for our agents, our brokers, and our regional owners, so that we were reaching out to them literally daily. Everything from studying Eckhart Tolle to yoga to giving them training in their own homes so that they could
mm-hmm,
see a light at the end of the tunnel and they could keep making progress. I think
mm.
anytime somebody can see themselves continue to make progress, they're absolutely willing to stick with it.
Well, two things I took away there is, leaders go first, and I know that, you do lead by example. And also what I've learned from you is watching you and and your approach and your philosophy is that human potential is very important, but you lead by example. You've worked on your own human potential. You've worked on growing yourself personally. And I know that you try and, you really work hard in creating a culture of personal growth and development. Like you said something, I believe I heard you right, at the leadership conference. We had you at our leadership conference last year, and you talked about, yeah, and you just kind of, yeah, I read about 300 books a year. I was like, what did you say? And I write a couple of hundred notes a month. I'm like, what did you say? Where do you find the time to read the books, to do the work? And then also, what does it look like to cultivate that environment of growth in your world?
Well, I think that first of all, you have to know what you want. And then you're going to be surround yourself with people that make you want to be better. And sometimes that ends up being a book, something, what do I need to learn? Who do I need to surround myself with? Always asking yourself effective questions to constantly grow. But if I'm not growing, how can I expect the people that follow me to grow?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really important to grow, not just in business, but grow personally, grow professionally. You mentioned I'm a martial artist and I'm in training to become a master. December of 2025, I'm going to test to become a master. And so um, for me, it always works better if I have targets. If I have targets, timelines, and tactics, but add one, tenacity, that passion to really want to stick with it. And so physically for me, if I have a goal like now to become a master, that's something to shoot towards. So then that can help me to stick with everything physically I have to do in order to get there. I've done it and had a target be a triathlon, be a marathon. Most of it's been geared around martial arts, but that makes it so that I can stick with it. I'll give you a perfect example as far as physical goes. In Taekwondo, I know that I need more speed, power, and snap in order to complete becoming a master. And so I'm doing 15,000 steps a day because less Tammy means more speed. No, the lighter I am, the faster I'm going to be, right? But then for the power and snap, I'm doing weights. I'm working out, doing martial arts, and I'm pushing myself harder and harder with heavier and heavier weights, but specific to what it is I need to do. I have to break 4 cinder blocks. So I'm doing an awful lot of exercise that have to do with my upper forearms. And hopefully they don't look a little too Popeye-ish before I get there. But, um, you know, the same thing can be true in business. So if I need to learn something, I need to understand. I've been reading up tremendous amount because we're attracting an awful lot of 20-somethings and 30-somethings. What's important to them? It can't be what's important to me. What's important to them? What's going to add value to their life? How can I relate to them so that I can help get more and better out of them? Things aren't going to stay the same all the time. As far as reading goes, I'm on an awful lot of planes every year. So that's usually the best time for me to be able to read and absorb information and ask yourself those effective questions. And this is going to sound like it doesn't make sense, but to me, it really does. And that is, distraction is so difficult for people. And, we make mistakes. The only way we can fail is if we don't have enough information or not accurate enough information, limiting beliefs and distraction. So my first hour of every day, I don't need to set an alarm clock. I tell myself what time I have to get up, and I'm awake a half an hour before whatever time I've told myself I need to wake up. And so I do not touch my cell phone for the first hour of every day. And I know that a lot of people are reactive and they live reacting to that phone, but you don't end up staying in control, and you're not in control of where you're going to grow. So I start off with silence. I start off with exercise. I start off with asking myself self-effective questions. I start off visualizing, how do I want this day to go? How do I want these people to feel? So that when I do grab my phone, I'm already prepared for the day, and I feel like I'm in complete control, and I've grown some. I make sure that I always read and do a little bit of writing during that time. And sometimes that's personal notes to somebody. And before anything, before I turn that phone on, I definitely practice gratitude.
It's great stuff. Let me back up a second here because I want to make sure I'm writing this down, and I want to make sure our audience has a chance to write this down. I have timelines, targets. I have tenacity, but I feel like I'm missing one. What was
Tactics?
tactics?
How am I going to do it? Right? I have to know what I want. And then when do I want it by? How am I going to achieve it? But then I've got to have tenacity. So a perfect example for me, for everybody else, what you want, why you want it, and how bad you want it will tell you you're on the right track. But if you have something in there, that last thing, tenacity, passion, who benefits if I succeed? If I can say we're going to take exit to this level, and everyone benefits if I succeed, and I can see those smiling faces that they feel like they've accomplished something and they've won, or that somebody has a goal that they want to do with their family, that they want to take them to Disney. We have a young lady in Salt Lake that wanted to use her residual income and take her whole entire family to Italy. And she walked through all the streets of Italy crying with gratitude because she knew exactly what she wanted. And when she achieved it, it was just so vivid, right? It also helps you to stick with it because if you can close your eyes and picture, literally, you made it. You got to that point. How do you feel? I can picture myself at a black belt tea ceremony, turning around and taking off my old belt and having them put on the new one. And I can already feel myself in tears because of the hard work it took to get
Mm.
there. But that picture helps me to stick with it. And the same thing is true for, selling a region, building this company, having that picture of seeing everybody be proud of where they work and be um, happy that they've been able to do wonderful things in their community and with their family and whatever their priorities are.
That's brilliant. I love how you just talk about kicking butt, taking names, and snapping and rapping and the whole deal. So powerful. Timelines, targets, tactics, and tenacity. And what I think is brilliant about what you just said is the fact that you can apply. Who's going to benefit, including yourself, right? A lot of people who are in leadership are real givers. They take care of everybody else. You starting with yourself to say, how's it going to feel when I get that next level achievement in Taekwondo? What is it going to look like? What's it going to feel like? Whether that's financially, whether that's in the family, in our 5 circles, you can apply it to every 5 circles. And what I like about that also is to do that as the leader before you come to the office, before you get to work with your team. It gives you an energy to encourage. It gives you an energy and an example for folks to say, I want this for you too.
Right. And you can it makes it very simple to put everybody else first. But if you don't take care of yourself, how are you going to be able to give from an empty cup? It's a very difficult thing to do, but also leading by example. You and I both know some leaders that are out there, even in this industry, that are just waiting until they can cash in their chips.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to be anywhere that I'm not passionate about being, that I want to help everybody get to that next level. And they're not going to follow somebody that's not growing.
Mm-hmm. So true. And leading by example, whether you want to lead by example or not, you are. Like,
Absolutely.
I don't know. Sometimes I'm wondering, oh my gosh, I hope they're not paying attention to my example right now. I just really hope nobody's listening, nobody's watching. But this is great stuff. I also routines. One of the purposes of the show is to really garnish best practices from folks like yourself. And I think routines, and I've often said, for me, I know when my circumstances are stronger than my routines, I'm in trouble. But when my routines are stronger than my circumstances, I'm in a good place. And now I just want to make sure I heard you right. And I think you've got a little acronym for your routines. It's called S.A.V.E.R.
Right.
Which is silence, affirmation, visualization, exercise, reading. And what's the last one?
Scribing.
Writing it down. Great. Brilliant stuff. And it helps you maintain the focus and productivity. And I guess that energy that you're describing is like that visualization of I can see it being done. This is exciting.
Well, you can already see progress, right? You can already see progress in the beginning of your day.
Well, and as I said, I think sometimes and our routines don't get tested in good times, do they?
No.
Our characters don't really show up in tough times. They show up in good times. And I wanted I'd asked your permission about this. So it's so powerful for you to share. You learn a lot about somebody in tough times, and you suffered a tremendous loss personally when you lost your son. Every parent's nightmare. You lost him as a young man. You lost Shane. It was very dear and near to your heart. And I know, how did you work through that tough time? And I want to share a little bit about Shane's story.
Well, I think that Shane was an amazing kid. He served in Army Special Forces. He always wanted to save the day. Most of his friends will tell you that his nickname everywhere was Batman. He really wanted to be that kid that came in and saved the day. He had made up cards of saving the day, literally starting at 8 years old. And he blew his shoulder out in training. And unfortunately, 6 years ago, this past January, we lost him. And, I'm not going to lie. There's, that moment between dreaming and waking when I think he's still here is still the best part of my day.
Mm.
But you have to keep moving for the rest of your family. You have to keep moving for the
Mm.
people that you're responsible for. And so it's, how can I honor this person? How can I honor this person and um, honor that he was here and that his memory and his legacy can live on? And so I do my best to focus on that. Last week was his birthday, so it was an extra tough time. And I think I told you that I was like, okay, Shane, give me a sign. It was one of those really tough days. I had, bronchitis and sick when you're not feeling that great, positive mindset wise. And I just was asking if he'd give me a sign. And we've been donating in his honor to this uh, veteran outreach program, New England Veteran Outreach Program. And it was, I said, give me a sign that we're doing the right stuff for the right reasons. And I opened up my email, and the very first email was from them. And actually, it's funny, I actually have a picture right here, but this is his namesake, a dog that was named after him. And they sent me that picture. We went and met him. I had donated money, and they sent me a letter and said they were so honored with his history and what he had done, and that they would love to name a service dog after him. And they have 100% success rate of saving lives with these service dogs. And it doesn't matter if somebody's suffering from PTSD, what it is that they have that's going on. Um, these service dogs, they match them up. They go in and they train with them. They help them. They're helping other people at the same time. It's somebody that they're responsible for. And so we went and met the Shane's namesake last April, and they sent me a picture of him grown now, and just wrote me a letter of how much he's helping other veterans that are going in and talking for counseling. And here's Shane holding their hand. And that made it a whole lot easier, and definitely obviously feels like a sign. And I sent them a letter back and said, I'd like to send a check strictly for the K9 program. They do so many things, biofeedback, they train for new jobs. They have everything from music on down, and they have a world-renowned psychologist that's doing biofeedback that has had such tremendous success. And so it's amazing to get to see these veterans change from not knowing what to do. A lot of them coming out of the service don't know what to do, to helping others and feeling amazingly like they have a purpose.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing that. I think it helps a lot of us as we're going through tough times to know that it's not just possible to get, through the tough times. And you've done an incredible job and a great example of what leadership looks like, and how you've continued to move forward and still not get owned by that experience, but take that experience and use it positively. Whether it's Clear Path and that charity you just mentioned, to help other veterans who are dealing with all sorts of trauma and a difficult time adapting out of being in a very structured environment called the military for a number of years, into the lost world of, the job world, and, not having the same structure. So I just really commend you and admire you so much for just sharing that with us, and how you've continued to show up and serve others and take a negative and turn it into such a positive story.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that everybody deserves a legacy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So true. Well, it's a little tough out there. There's always tough times, isn't there? Like we were getting ready here today, and Tammy's Zoom wasn't working and my microphone wasn't working. We were just looking at it going, this is just the way it is. It's always stuff like this. What best advice do you have for the leaders who are on here that would help them lead through themselves through tough times, but also how do we pay attention? How do we help lead our teams through tough times? What would be your best tips?
Well, I think that, back to what I said about knowing what you want and why you want it and how bad you want it, that's really important. And then obviously who benefits if you succeed. But take it a step further. Every person that's in a leadership position has been extremely successful through a difficult time at some point in time. Remind yourself of that. Remind yourself, what did you do when you were going through that tough time and you made it through? A couple of habits that I find that work really, really well is number one, just like visualizing how you want the day to go and how you want people to feel. At the end of the day, something goes good every single day, even if there's a lot of things that don't. Ask yourself what worked today and write it down so that that's the position you can start with the next day. What worked today and write it down and have an action plan. You know, a blueprint is terrific. Having a blueprint that tells us all we want to do and having a business plan. But if I'm not going to act on it, I book off 4 hours every single month. And I'll tell you that it's probably been a saving grace through shifting times. Book off 4 hours to work on your life, not in it. Book off 4 hours to work on your business, not in it. Keep every facet of your life in that and plan in advance. You'll maximize on experiences and you'll see progress all the time. A couple little things. Meet with one leader a week. Meet with one leader a week in whatever community you represent. Do your homework on that person before you get in front of them so that you can really make it a personal experience. You'll grow from it and they'll grow from it. Value equals income. So you want to provide value for the other people on the other side. And you also want it to be something that's really worthwhile. Think about connecting the people that you know. Who can I connect? Even if the meeting with one leader a week, who can I connect that's doing something right that I can connect with over here that will really make it so that that's a dramatic picture. Last but not least, and it's my number one rule, only focus on the solution, never focus on the problem.
Well, you know, what you've described there is a really powerful recipe for taking yourself out of whatever you're going through, whatever the suffering is, whatever the challenge is, to look to the future and imagine the future. I love also what you said about, you know, connecting with other people. It takes you out of your own world and your own bubble and your own problem to focus on the possibilities. Focusing on the wins. I heard you say that. Focusing on the wins. And also remind yourself of the tough stuff you've gone through. Because if you've done it once, you can do it again.
Absolutely. In fact, you're a lot smarter the second time.
Well, and also, and this is part of, again, back to the Curious CEO is, and the reason I have you on here is because I know you've got so much valuable experience that helps me. This is tremendously valuable to me, but I know for those folks listening in right now, and leadership can be tough. You know, you don't just get your own problems, you get them to the factor of whatever size organization or that you're leading, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, brilliant stuff. Brilliant stuff. Well, Tami, can't thank you enough. One of the things I want to point out today, we're not selling anything ever at the Curious CEO. We're always trying to provide great tools and ways for people to get involved in learning or giving. And I want to highlight the charity you just mentioned. And if it's on your heart and you feel like you want to contribute, that link is clearpathne.org/donate. Tami, we're going to be making a donation on your behalf to that charity, just to thank you, to support it, and make sure that this good work comes on. And as I said, if anybody else there feels so compelled to do so, I know that they could do with the support and the encouragement. I want to thank you for joining me on the show today. We'll be back next month for another episode of The Curious CEO with my guest, leadership expert, Alison Levine. She will share with us her experience leading the first all-female team to climb Mount Everest. So until next time, stay curious, my friends.
Thank you for joining us on this month's Curious CEO. If you're ready to take your leadership to the next level, maybe it's time for you to work with a Buffini certified leadership coach. Our coaches will help you identify and leverage your natural leadership style, develop a strong organizational culture, improve recruiting and retention, and increase the profitability of your business. And among the benefits of our leadership coaching membership is a backstage pass to the Curious CEO that allows you to ask your questions directly to Dermot and his amazing guests. If you'd like to see if Buffini leadership coaching is right for you, schedule your complimentary leadership consultation using the URL on your screen.